Gee, Steve, what are we going to do tonight?
Same thing we do every podcast. Tell him how he sees it.
Mom? Is that you?
You're there now. Just relax. You've been asleep for almost 9 hours now.
I had a horrible nightmare. Dreamed that I went back in time. It was terrible.
Well, safe and sound now, back in good old 1955.
1955? You're my mom.
My name is Lorraine. Lorraine Bates?
Yeah. But you're so thin.
Just relax, Calvin. You got a big bruise on your head.
Ah, where are my pants?
Over there? On my hope chest? I've never seen purple underwear before, Calvin.
Calvin, why do you keep calling me Calvin?
Well, that is your name, isn't it? Calvin Klein? It's written all over your underwear. Oh, I guess they call you Cal.
No, actually, people call me Marty.
Oh. Pleased to meet you, Calvin. Marty? Klein? Do you mind if I sit here?
No, fine. No, good, fine, good.
That's a big bruise you have there.
Lorraine, are you up there?
Oh my God, it's my mother. Quick, put your pants back on.
Here we go. It's episode 290 with How We Sees It, and we're covering Back to the Future. This is our July 2025 throwback episode for July. We're going 40 years back into the past to do Back to the Future.
I'm surprised you said July because I actually, I think when I put this out, I had said June.
We are in June. Never mind.
No, but you're actually correct because it did come out July 3rd, which is a week from now. So we are closer. We had to go back a week or Back to the Future a week or whatever. But I had my month off there. So July 3rd was the release date. It was originally supposed to be released in June, but because they had to postpone some filming because they canned Eric Stoltz, they had to push back the release date. So that's on me. I'm sorry.
No, that's we're close enough to July. We're a few days away. We're like a week, and that's how long he spent back in time. So we'll just call it a wash at that point.
I like it.
But yeah, so this is a 40-year anniversary of this, and I'm just amazed that going back and watching movies from that time, and just to me seeing if they hold up or not and stuff like that. And we'll get into that whether it does or doesn't.
Fair. Yeah, fair enough.
This is an iconic movie. Tons of people talk about this one, and it'll be interesting to talk to you about it because I have some different opinions on some things about it.
Which you haven't shared exactly what those opinions are, but you did give me a heads up that you had some differing opinions. So
yeah.
And
exactly.
And that's differing opinions to kind of the general consensus. You don't even know what my opinion is, huh? So
right. I'm just talking about what the fandoms out there and just the general consistency of this Back to the Future. I'm just gonna say I don't drink the Kool-Aid like everybody else does.
Like Quentin Tarantino, who calls it like the perfect movie, I believe. Yeah.
Yes, I've heard so many people say that, and I'm like, oh, so don't know a perfect movie then. Anyhow, I was just about to say that I don't drink the Kool-Aid, but what I do is I drink cocktails here on How We Seeez It.
That's
We
right.
pair a cocktail to whatever it is we're watching, and we did that this week. We actually did it I did it last week because we were gonna record last week, but we had a miscommunication, and it was okay. We figured it out. We made it work.
So you brought your drink back from the past.
I did. I brought it back from the
future.
past. I'm going to go for mine real quick just because I got it right here ready to drink, and I'm kind of excited about it. I was beating myself up trying to find one for this one because there's a lot of different things, but how do you do certain cocktails to certain, like how do you tie them and what really resonates with you? And the one thing that really, the scene that really made me laugh in this and what really got me, and the one that I kind of go back to and I was like, okay, I get that, is when Marty is at the dance back in the past and he has to play with the band because the main guitar guy got his hand smashed, so he can't play the guitar. So he jumps up on stage and ends up playing a Chuck Berry song. He kind of starts riffing off and he's like, guys, just follow me, which I don't know if that's really how that works. If some guy can just start riffing on a guitar and people can just pick up and play, it seemed a little like, I'm not a musician. I know, Steve, you are, and you're very good at it. I've tried multiple times and I just don't have the dexterity to play guitar and all that. So I just didn't get it, but I really enjoyed the scene. And what got me into this is the name of my drink is called The Cousin, right? The Cousin Marvin Berry. It just something about that line, just when he delivers it, makes me laugh. And so my cousin Marvin starts with a big strawberry that I muddle into my shaker, pour in 1/2 ounce of a lime simple syrup, and then I add 2 ounces of gin, 1/2 ounce of vanilla vodka. Then I do 1/2 ounce of fresh squeezed lemon, and then I shake that really nice, pour that over ice, and then add a sparkling pink grapefruit juice and garnish it with a strawberry. And so I was going back and forth, and the reason I ended up coming on this one is I had bought strawberries that week, and I was like, I kind of want to do something with this, and I haven't muddled anything. I don't even know if I've muddled anything on this show yet. And so I was like, I got to find something to do.
You muddled something last week because Bo actually teased you about it. So
yeah, well, that's kind of what I did this one before that, and so I was like, oh, I like this muddle, and it kind of gives you a good flavor. But I wanted to do that, so I thought, oh, berry, and then the Marvin Berry, and I really like that line and that portion of the movie, so I thought that'd be really cool. So I did this drink last week and drank it. It was really delicious, so I thought I'd keep it and go with it again.
It's interesting, that scene, the Johnny B. Good scene, that right before the movie was released, when they were trying to figure out what they could trim, they were trying to get it down on time. Robert Zemeckis, the director, he was about to completely cut that whole scene, the Johnny B. Good scene, because from his point of view, it didn't drive the narrative at all. It wasn't pertinent to the story, which if you look at it, it really isn't. It's the song beforehand that's the one that gets him to kiss. This is just kind of an energetic song riff. But preview audiences really responded to it, so they kept it in. So
I have to agree, it's one of my favorite scenes in it. And whether it brings the narrative or not, I actually enjoyed it, even though I don't think Marty was that good of a musician to pull that off. I still thought it was a good scene.
Yeah, he actually didn't play. I mean, as far as Michael J. Fox didn't play the guitar, he had to learn all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he was on a real tight schedule because he was filming Family Ties and what's that?
Yeah, he didn't even sing it.
No, he lip synced it.
So, you could
tell.
Works.
You could tell.
Yeah, it definitely. All right, well, that's my drink, the Cousin Marvin.
All right, so for my drink, I went with a 3-pronged approach to my drink, just like there's a 3-pronged approach to the flux capacitor. This drink is very punny. I'm sorry. I kind of broke out the humor a little bit for this one. So, but each prong of this drink is inspired by one of Doc Brown's famous exclamations in the movie. So, rather than a flux capacitor, I call it my flux capacitini. So I put it in a martini glass in the end. But I started with 3/4 of an ounce of Monkey Shoulder blended Scotch. And Monkey Shoulder is a pretty good Scotch. Not only is it a good Scotch, It's a great scotch.
Right, Scott.
This is when I'm going to edit the podcast, so you hear Doc Brown exclaiming, "Great Scott!" Okay. Anyway, 3/4 ounces of a Redemption bourbon, and surprisingly, if you look at the Redemption bourbon, it is 88 proof. That was the key to my bourbon.
88 miles per hour.
And then for my third of the 3-pronged flux capacitor approach, I put in 1.21 ounces of green chartreuse to really give it a nice herbal kick. And again, here's where I edit in the Doc Brown 1.21 gigawatts.
1.21 gigawatts.
Gigawatts, of course, the same way I pronounce GIFs, you know. Then I rounded it out with some pretty simple additions, 1/2 ounce of lemon juice, 1/4 ounce of simple syrup. And then I put a bit of a float, and I had to kind of go back about 25 years before. Actually, I think this might have been, I don't know. I don't know how long it's been when they pulled this off the shelves, but Pepsi free. Now they call it caffeine free Pepsi. But I just kind of doctored my my can to look like Pepsi free, and I added about a 1/2 ounce float on top of this. And again, I call it the Flux Capacitini. If you look at my picture, I thought this was kind of clever. My green chartreuse, which is the bottle on the left of the photo, has been slowly faded out like it is being lost through time travel, very much like his older brother is fading out the head. So I had a little fun with that. So that's just a little Easter egg if you look at the photo on our website at hwsi.podbean.com.
Yes, that is, and the fact that you have a flux capacitor in the photo.
You know, my wife got that for me many, many years ago. That's actually something that plugs into a car a lighter, you know, and it'll light up in your car. So that is an actual little gadget. It's got a USB plug on the side, and so I threw it in the photo because, of course, I called it.
Oh, so it's a USB adapter that goes from your lighter to just a USB adapter.
Yeah, you can use it as a USB adapter if you want, or you can just plug it in and it lights up like the flux capacitor. So,
well, you know how you plug into the lighters,
sure,
and that's awesome.
It's an adapter for It just
That's
with a
really
little
cool.
bonus of turning your car into a DeLorean.
That's funny. I wonder if that's what they have. So if you ever go to what is it? O'Reilly's Auto,
Yeah,
right? And
that's
you type
across
in
the street from the JC, right?
But if you go onto their website and type in 1.1,
Oh, yes.
they have on their website a flux capacitor.
That's true, and it usually says like out of stock or something like that, not
Yeah.
expected for another 30 years, or I don't know, something stupid, something silly like that.
And I was like, oh, what would be even better is if they had these and were selling these, on their website as the flux. That's really cool. I always thought that was funny. It's something I found out years ago, and I just always thought that was just a cool nod to the movie. Out of that, which I have to give this movie credit for the how much people know about it, how much people quote this movie. This is one of those movies that I would say is in the top 10 of quoted movies, just in general. Like you said the gigawatt.
Sure. No, that's interesting because last week we talked about with Raising Arizona. I think there was a question about what sort of quotes. I think you were even challenging Nina on it because we were talking so much about the wonderful dialogue. But it's true. It's not, dip Ted. I think we came up with a couple, but it's really not quotable from that standpoint where you're right. This one is. It's
gigawatt. Great Scott. I mean, God, how many times? McFly. Just, McFly when someone's doing something stupid. It just...
Hello.
So much. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Just there's so many quotes from this. It's crazy. I have to give it to that for what it is, and I'll get into the.
Okay, I was going to say the dialogue is catered to that with that idea of like when you're first introduced to the characters, they almost mimic the same sort of dialogue later on, and they create these lines of dialogue that are more memorable, so that when they return back to them with the younger characters and you hear it, you're like, I know that, and then it resonates a little bit more in your memory.
Yeah, I mean they do. This is I have to give them credit too for. I will say it now. this is not a loved movie by me. Like, this is not a rewatchable movie by me. Like, someone brought it up today. Like, I think it's called The Cinephiles is who I was listening to, and they rated this as a perfect movie. And I was like, I don't know about that. And they said there was 3 others that they had, or this was one of 3. Pulp Fiction was one of them. Indiana Jones was the other.
The Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. Mm-hmm. And they were like, if this was on, would you stop and watch it? Those other 2, I would stop and watch. If Back to the Future was just on, it's not one of those movies where I can just jump in anytime and watch it or even care to.
Well, you're going to talk about what turns you off. Are there certain things that like annoy you about it?
It's not even that it annoyed me. Well, there is one thing that it annoyed me.
Yeah.
And it's a skateboarding scene.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was a skateboarder.
Okay.
And everything he did is like, that's not what skateboarders do. That's like the whole grabbing onto cars and being pulled around. That first off, nobody with a car would let you do that, right? We used to try and do it all the time. We would try and sneak behind the ice cream truck and all this other shit, but they don't let you do that shit. And it
might be the difference between Sacramento and a small town, that.
It was just one of those, but everybody's like, oh, he was such a cool skateboarder and he turned everybody into skate. I was like, no. Now, I do have to give props to his skateboard stunt double is a pro that I really thought was really cool. So I just was one of those, and I actually have one. I think I have 2 of his boards. And so it's just one of those things. It's just, that's one of those things that kind of bugged me.
Did you ever see The Secret Life of Walter Mitty with, who's the guy that's he directed it too?
It doesn't sound. I mean,
Zoolander. Who plays Zoolander? The main Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller directed and starred. It's a remake, but in Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Interesting movie. It's not what you'd expect. It's kind of, if you see a trailer for it, it looks all fantasy, fantastical and stuff, which is a part of the movie. He just has his memories kind of, his imagination goes wild sometimes. But it's a really interesting movie, and he kind of befriends someone, falls for her a bit, and her son is a kid who skateboards and isn't very good at it. But I think I'm bringing this up because Ben Stiller really is a damn good skateboarder and shows him some things. And I was curious if you had seen it so you could reflect on some of the stuff he did, because that's a movie where they use it in an interesting way, skateboarding in an interesting way. It's not like this. It's just trying to show things off. It's his way of trying to bond with this girl that he likes, her son, and it works because he just does it from a, hey, let me show you a couple things, and then what he does is pretty impressive, and then he says, hey, I can show you some more things if you want, and they kind of have a nice bond out of it. But
got it.
So just the skateboarding angle, that's the only reason I bring it up.
Right. So I was gonna say the pro is Per Waylander, who is I think he's Dutch, maybe. But he was a freestyle skater in the 80s, which was kind of a new, they did the smaller boards, and I got one of them, and I was just impressed by him and stuff like that. So when I found out he did the skateboarding stuff, I thought that was kind of cool. So he's a skater for Pal Peralta. I actually have some of his boards now, and that was kind of cool. But it was just some of the stuff about it. It just was one of those movies. To me, it's almost kind of boring, and I understand that it's a great watch through if you've never seen it.
Some of the criticisms I heard are more the beginning. You know what I was doing, the research I was doing. I did a couple things for research. I didn't listen to any podcasts, but I watched a couple reaction videos, which I found interesting. Because these are people who had never seen the movie. And they're not from the 80s, so they never saw the trailer. Like when we went into the movie, we saw the trailer ahead of time, so that he's going back to meet his parents. I don't know. That's just kind of a given. Whereas someone watching it now for the first time to react on YouTube, which is kind of fun to watch, but they've never seen a trailer. It's just boom. So it's interesting to see those early scenes with the parents and whether or not they can tell that, because the makeup to me I thought was kind of lacking. Even though at the time it was probably better, just because they didn't have that much experience with really kind of realistic aging. But whether or not they were trying to hide the fact that these were characters, or if they knew that, hey, they're in the trailer, obviously people are going to know these are the parents. But to see it from these people's point of view was interesting. And also just reading a lot of the behind the scenes and all kind of the scheduling issues, all the controversy with Eric Stoltz and how the script kind of went through its rewrites and how it got pushed up because of some of the successes with target audiences. Because originally I said it was going to be released in June, but then they pushed it back to like August because of the schedule. But then when it kind of was resonating with target audience, preview audiences, they decided to fast track the special effects, which is why some of the special effects are a little bit lacking, but it was so they could get that early July release so they could make more summer money, because that's when they make the money. And it worked out for them. I'm interested in that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Ton of money in this movie.
Sure.
It was a budget of 19 million, and gross worldwide was 385 million. So they made
and it greenlit 2 sequels. 2, you got a trilogy out of it too.
Yeah. Which is funny. So this isn't streaming right now. We had to rent it. I think which is funny because I've been working on my new property and trying to get our garage and in the shop and everything organized, because we just threw everything from the other house into it so we could get moved out. As I was doing that, I came across out of a box, even like it was just sitting in it on one of the shelves, a 3-pack. It's the trilogy. On DVD.
On DVD, I was going to say VHS, DVD. Okay.
And I was like, oh God, no, I don't think I have VHS on this. But I was just like, did I buy this? Did my kids? How did I end up with this? Because and I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. But then, even though I had the DVD, I think I rented it. I was just like, I don't have the time. It is.
Yeah.
It was worth it, $3.79 to not have to get up and put a DVD into my PlayStation.
I forgive you. I've got a buddy at work that hosts a Jellyfin server, and he has like 50 terabytes of movies on here. Thousands of movies, and I can just go in and request one. So that's what I did with Raising Arizona, because I don't know if I went in there like a couple days beforehand and I requested Raising Arizona, and then it showed up the next day and I was able to watch it. This one was already there, all 3 of them. So I've been taking advantage of his service. It's not something that I can publish to other people. It's something that he just kind of gives,
I got
his friends access. But
so the funny thing on that, I also rented Raising Arizona, and I'm not positive. I rented both. I'd have to check my Amazon account exactly. One of them was rent it for $3.79 or buy it for $4.99, and
Sure.
I bought it.
Oh yeah, I get that.
And I can't remember which one it was. So, but I'm thinking it's Raising Arizona, because I'm also thinking like I said, this to me, Back to the Future, does not have the rewatchability that I would want in a lot of movies. Now, that's just me. I if you love this movie, more power to you, because this is great. This is what it is. Michael J. Fox was huge at the time. He was, and you were talking about the conflicts that he was dealing with the filming of this, because he was currently doing what's the show?
Family Ties.
Yep. Family Ties. And so they wouldn't release him to do that. So
they didn't even give him the script to look at. They withheld it. So, because he was Robert Zemeckis' first choice and they just said, oh no, he can't do it. So he didn't even know about it.
Yeah. Well, and so Family Ties was a huge program. I remember watching that. That was one of those ones that we watched weekly, kind of thing. And it was just, he was so good in that as Alex B. Keaton. It was such an interesting thing. So I went in and looked at Michael J. Fox's filmography and the stuff that he'd been in, and I'm like, what do I remember him from? And I was going through here, and I was like,
Doc Hollywood. He was in. There weren't many movies. He was more successful because he had that other Spin City, I think is what it was.
Yeah. Well, and I never watched that.
No,
I never did watch it.
Yeah.
I was just going, I was like, he really wasn't. I mean, he was great in what he did, and he's beloved by people. And I mean, he's also dealing with a lot of stuff now. He's got, is it Parkinson's?
Parkinson's, yeah. But it didn't stop him from acting, at least for a long time. In fact, he was on a series that I watched, a law series, played a lawyer who had Parkinson's, and so they kind of accommodated it. But at one point, a few years back, he retired and said basically it's too much, whether because he can take medication to kind of tone down his shakes, but it has side effects and things. So it's hard to manage. But I think there's something he's coming out of retirement for to do, and I can't remember what it was, but it was pretty cool.
I know what he's doing. He's
What?
coming, and this is probably why you saw it. He's coming out of retirement to do an episode of Shrinking.
That's right. That's exactly it. Yep. That's right. And
Yep.
it had to do with, they made him an offer and it resonated with him. So
I just
I'm
was
excited about
surprised because he's such a beloved character and a loved person, and I give him all the credit. I've always thought he was really cool, and I think a lot of it stems from Family Ties. Which is interesting because I went back and watched the first 2 episodes of Family Ties.
Oh, that's great.
And we talk about woke media and woke TV today. Holy crap, that first episode would fucking fit in 100% today because it literally is hippies versus conservatives.
That's funny.
His dad and mom are very hippie-ish and very liberal, and he is very conservative, and they have their little battles. So much so that I was surprised by the episode. I was like, because there's something, he goes to a resort with a girl and stuff, and his dad just not having it because they're very conservative and they won't even let black people in there and this and that and all this. And I was just like, holy shit, this is right out of the fucking times today, like 40 years ago.
And interesting because today it'd be labeled woke and be kind of shunned. Whereas back then it was,
we all just went,
it was a conversation that could be had and not be kind of shunned, and that's interesting.
I just thought it was amazing.
It makes it feel like we've taken quite a few steps backwards in our.
We have. We have in American culture today, we have taken steps back because nobody wants to have the conversations, and that's the problem. But that's okay. But besides all that, I just was really it got me to watch Family Ties
that's
again,
cool.
which I was really cool. Meredith Baxter was also in that, which is funny because I also went and watched the first episode of Love Boat.
Oh, is she in that?
She's in the very first episode of Love Boat, and she plays a woman who posed in like a Playboy or whatever. And thing I recognized from that, which I thought was very interesting. I think this Love Boat was early 80s, maybe late 70s. I can't remember exactly, but
I think you're right. Yep.
There was not a lot of bras on that episode, and it was very evident. And I was like, holy shit.
Funny.
Can we get back to the times when we were doing this kind of TV? Because I was like, oh.
We talk about Love Boat, and there's probably a lot of we don't have a huge audience, but our younger audience probably has no clue what we're talking about. But they've probably heard of Ace Ventura because there's that great line when the guy opens the door and he's like, Captain Stubing, Howard, Gopher, and Doc, which are characters from Love Boat. So so
this was a 1977 episode.
Okay.
Which I was so fucking cool, and I enjoy it. It holds up. Hold up.
I think Michael J. Fox did great in this. He was fine. To me, that's not a character that I'm drawn towards, but I think
Marty.
Yeah, I think he's kind of an everyman. He played it in the right kind of comical tone, and I think that's one of the reasons why Eric Stoltz was canned, because he came in it and he was trying to kind of go drama.
Oh my!
He was doing
God.
drama, and he was staying in character outside of filming, and they were like, no, we got to get rid of this guy.
And he was taking it in a dark thing. He's like, yeah, this. I listened to a bunch of people and read some stuff, and I was like, holy crap. Like, how did he was like, Marty's suicidal and all this. I was
apparently
like, what
Robert
the-
Zemeckis was just crushed having to let him go because he felt like he was responsible for kind of that. And, you know, Eric Stoltz, he recovered fine. In a couple years later, he was in Some Kind of Wonderful with Leah Thompson. You know, so it's not like he pissed off the cast. He worked with them directly quite a bit, and you know, you mentioned he returned to be in another perfect movie because he was in Pulp Fiction. You know, so
which to me is much more of a perfect movie than this. You know, we talk about other great characters in this, and Christopher Lloyd is known for this movie, right? Dr. Emmett Brown. And he, to me, is a standout character in this. And so I watched this with my wife, and she just was like, I can't with him. He's just too over the top. And I was like, no, that's him. That's literally what he is. That's why he was so perfect as this Dr. Emmett Brown.
It's interesting. The very first... When I rewatched this, the very first like 15 seconds when he's first on screen, like when you hear him on the telephone, and then and then you see him, and it's like he's not talking fast enough. You know, it almost seemed like he was calm, and then he finally kicks into his high-speed communication way he speaks.
Right.
And once that happens, it's like he never turns it off. And you, so whenever I see those first few seconds of his character, it always feels a little like, oh, he's revving up, he's not quite there yet, and then boom, he kicks.
So this is what I heard, that Christopher Lloyd really confused the directors and crew because they would do run-throughs for camera, right? And he would be amping shit up and being all this, like doing all this stuff. And then when they would go to do the take, he would kind of settle down and not be so crazy.
Oh, interesting.
So they started filming the very beginnings and just like to see if they could capture it. And so some of those takes are like the very first, like we're not even set. We're setting shit up and doing stuff. And I think that's part of why it was.
Good, because that's such a iconic feature of his character is that like it's like he's been drinking 20 cups of coffee and so
there's an animated series out now called Rick and Morty.
Yep.
That is based on this.
That, you know, and is it okay? Because I was one of the
100%.
No. One of the reaction. No, I don't know Rick and Morty. I know the characters. I've seen them, and it does look like Doc Brown and another.
It's 100% based on it.
When I was watching a reaction video from someone, I mentioned I watched those on YouTube before for preparing for this. When they saw those characters, that's what they said. Are they Rick and Morty? Are they inspired by Rick and Morty? Or, you know, I think they were taking it from the other directions. And then they kind of said, wait a second, this movie's 40 years old. So it's probably the other way around.
So I heard all the hype about Rick and Morty and all this, and I'm like, okay, I got to check it out. I do not like that cartoon at all.
Okay.
It is annoying as fuck. Oh my God. It is not in my wheelhouse. They take Doc Brown and amp him to 1,000, and he's an alcoholic and he's throwing up all the time and doing all this just weird shit. And then Marty or Morty at this time is he's even more whining fucking nerd kid that they took what was subtle and kind of fun with the characters and amped them to 11.
Yeah. And
it just turns me off so horribly that I'm like, I cannot watch this shit at all. So, if you're into it, great for you. You know, I will never.
Maybe that's a taste of what your wife was experiencing when she sees Doc. I mean, I'm just saying.
God,
she sets the. You know, maybe she has a different extreme. You know.
Calibration
when it comes to extremes, and this is her Rick and Morty. Whereas for us,
video and movie watching is there's a very small bandwidth that she can handle. And mine is a very larger bandwidth, and this is outside of that bandwidth. But like I said, if you're into that, I am not going to yuck your yum because that is for you. And you know, everybody has their stuff. And that's why there's millions and millions of shows out there for everybody. Not everybody's going to fly with this. But, you know, Christopher Lloyd, for me, as Doc Emmett Brown was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. And to me, he is a better character than the Marty McFly. Marty McFly didn't come off to me as the normal teenager. He was
To me, he was fine. He fit the role, and you don't necessarily need that character to stand out in eccentric ways.
Well, I also thought he was a
he's
little.
the straight man to the crazy
okay.
guy. So to me, that's a good balance, and I thought he fit the role really well with that in mind.
He was. I thought he was a little too cool to be from the parents that supposedly that he was from in the, the original.
Some of the outfits they put him on. I mean, that jean jacket at the beginning with the rolled up jeans and stuff. It's kind of like, oh my God, that's so 80s.
Oh, it's bad.
It's a little embarrassing.
That was the other thing.
I don't think I dressed up like that, but
I was nothing like that. The opening scene too, right, where he kind of walks in and we just get his shoes, and apparently Nike is a big sponsor of this movie, and it was all by happenstance because Michael J. Fox or whoever, I don't even know if it's Michael J. Fox. It might have been the other guy, showed up for that first scene where they're filming, and he just happened to be wearing Nikes. So they're like, fuck it, just film it. And then they went back and talked to Nikes, and I was like, I don't remember this being big for Nike, but okay. I do remember the Converse shot from the 50s.
Pepsi did sponsor it. They had a lot of Pepsi free,
Oh yeah, Pepsi was all over this.
But when I was doing my cocktail and I needed a soda and I went with Pepsi, I looked to find the history of Pepsi. I looked for Tab too, and of course that one was.
That hasn't been around for a while.
It was around the pandemic where it's Coca-Cola based, and apparently Pepsi was not happy. They tried to get them to cut the Tab line because it was a reference to a Coke product. Which yeah.
I thought Tab was a Pepsi product.
No, it's a Coke product.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that.
No.
I literally thought, yeah. Well, I mean, great lines for what, I mean, it worked.
They don't work now. I mean, if someone says, I want a Tab, and we can't have a Tab, no one's going to get it because Tab doesn't exist anymore. And Pepsi free, that doesn't make sense either. Even though there's caffeine free Pepsi, but people don't think of it as Pepsi free. That just sounds weird. So there are some.
Holy shit. I didn't even know that. I swear to God, I thought Tab was a Pepsi product. I just pulled it up, Wikipedia. A Diet Cola soft drink produced and distributed by the Coca-Cola Company. So what Back to the Future has done has theoretically brought Coke and Pepsi together and merged them into one cohesive unit that worked out so well. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I do remember Tab being a thing. When I was younger, I had a friend who was very where you could if you went into a store and asked for a Coke and they said, "Oh, I got no Coke, Pepsi," he'd be like, "I can't do that." Like he was very
Pepsi, no Coke.
Yeah, right. Well, but I'm thinking name brand sensitive. Like he had to have he wouldn't wear anything but actual Levi's. Like you could never dude, Wranglers, nothing. Like it had to be Levi's, and there was just a bunch of other stuff. So I remember because we were in our gym class and we had a soda machine and it was RC Cola, which I actually think is better than Pepsi and Coke.
Yeah,
throwing that out there, but he would bitch and moan every goddamn day because they didn't have Tab.
Right.
Tab was his soda, and I remember going places with him, and he would bitch and moan, and it's like, I have to have fucking water because they don't have Tab. Like, dude, what the fuck?
But yeah, we had a vending machine in junior high, I remember, and that's when I had a thing for Cactus Cooler. I would love to get Cactus Cooler. I think if you go back about 4 or 5 years in our podcast, there is a cocktail I found. I tracked down Cactus Cooler. It still existed at the time. I think I had to go over to specialty. I don't know. It might have been a Walmart or something, or Target or something. But it still existed. So I get that. I get some people just get.
Wasn't that like wasn't it kind of like a
squirt?
A Mountain Dew kind of takeoff? Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't. It was good. It was tasty.
Cactus Cooler, an orange pineapple soda pop.
There you go.
Interesting. That sounds actually delicious. I might have to check that out if I ever find it. No, that's funny. But yeah, I thought that was great that they did that. And it was kind of funny because Nike kind of ended up in this, but I don't remember it being big. And I remember seeing This was a product placement movie too, in a way.
Funny because I mean, one of the main product placements would have been the DeLorean, which was a very failed, automobile. It was one that kind of came out with a huge splash and then just went kerplunk because everything.
So I learned some new shit.
Oh, good.
DeLorean.
Bring it. Let's hear it.
Apparently, the owner of the DeLorean line product is a shitbag.
Yeah.
Apparently, he got arrested for like rape charges and all this other stuff, and they're finding out that not only did he he came out and tried to challenge the big three, Ford, Chevy, and the American auto industry, and with his DeLorean and stuff like that. But apparently, like he took like a Mercedes, he borrowed a Mercedes for someone. Like he's like, hey, can I just borrow your car for whatever? Took it back to a shop and disassembled it and took fucking design off of it and all this just craziness. But I didn't know any of that. I knew this movie from the DeLorean as being like this crazy car because it had those doors, right? Everybody remember the doors. I remember, so this was one of our, God, you might have been, no, I don't remember if you were with me, but it was one of our trips to Las Vegas for our martial arts yearly tournament test and all of our goodness. And we go see Mr. Jeff Speakman, and which in 2 weeks I will be there testing for my 4th degree black belt. But we were walking around the MGM parking lot. We came across this fenced off section, and there was a Back to the Future fitted up DeLorean sitting out underneath, just they're in their parking garage in this fenced off area.
Nice.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? The DeLorean from Back to the Future. I mean, I knew exactly what it was, and I was like, holy shit. But to me, other than this movie, I know nothing about DeLoreans. I don't think I've ever seen one in real life other than that MGM thing. And I was just like, but it has all the shit on the back. I mean, it was literally a prop from the show.
Yeah, I saw an actual prop out at Universal Studios because going there, they had it a few years after the movie was big. They had it on kind of continuous display at Universal Studios as part of the Universal Studios tour. So I did get a chance to see it there. I can't remember if I ever saw any driving around. I want to say yes, but I could be completely making that up, or at least sometimes your memory has this way of kind of putting in memories that don't really exist because you've seen so many photographs or had so many conversations that I don't know if it's true or not. But I seem to recall seeing a DeLorean or two driving around in LA.
What I understand is there's actually the DeLorean company is still around, not owned by the same guy and all that, but
not
you can
John
still
DeLorean,
buy.
Yeah.
No, apparently that guy was a piece of shit, which I was like, oh, that's fucking crazy. But yeah, apparently you can still get DeLorean cars and they still look really very space like, still got the same kind of doors and shit. There's very few dealerships around, but I'm looking at their site right now and holy crap, the kind of cool cars.
One of the things I adore about this movie,
they look like cool Teslas.
You mentioned space, and to me, I think it's a really sharp script in that it paces itself really well, and it's complicated and yet really it continues to address itself. It doesn't take off in strange tangents and stuff. It's a really cohesive.
It's a tight script.
Tight script. But some of those little nods, like when he first shows up in the barn, and he gets out and the kid's got the comic book and it shows.
Yeah, right.
You talk about spaceship, and here he is. He comes out and then when Marty takes off the head thing, the guy's he's already mutated into a human, and all this kind of silly shit and stuff. But it's funny, and it just seems to be really well paced with how, and it's also complex enough to where you're not sure how they're going to pull it off, and yet I think they do a really good job kind of piecing together this riddle, or putting together this like puzzle. How are you going to solve this puzzle, and putting it together in a way that's extremely satisfying. That's one of the things that I really think this movie does well. Is it's a very well written script that is very satisfying in how it buttons up every problem that it's faced with.
Yes, it does. I agree with you 100%. Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale were the writers of this, and what I understand,
they had like 5 years to do writes and rewrites, so they
apparently
had some time with it.
What I understand is they went scene by scene with everything, and they're like, okay, this is what we have. What are some of the issues that could happen? And they bring people in and ask them.
Yeah,
like they did like a what is it when you do the strings? Like in a crime movie where you have the strings going. Apparently, they did something similar where they're
like in Murders, Only Murders in the Building, where they have the posters
exactly.
there. Yeah.
So they did a lot of stuff like that where they're like, okay, if we have this, how do we tie this to the future? How do we tie this to the past? What is this? And they went and did all. I mean, they are so tight with their stuff. Everything that happened in the future, in the pre going back in time type shows up, his talking about his mom being a prude. Oh, you were probably raised by nuns, and totally turns out to be different. His dad is the whole Biff scene, and one of the funny things I was listening to is people they were doing a poll with their listeners, and they're like, all right, we want your top 5 movies with bullies, and you pick the best one, and so they went with the whole Biff thing being the bully, and how we get the same, the knock, 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 Marty, hey, McFly, hitting him in the head, and it goes back, and it's the exact same thing in the past and stuff like that. Like they tied stuff so well together that's why I give this movie props. And like, if there wasn't stuff like this in this movie, to me would be a very low rated movie. Like on IMDb, I put this at about a 7, just because. I've talked about this many times before. To me, rewatchability is a huge part of how I rate my movies. To get above an 8, you have to be very rewatchable. If it didn't have such...
I think that's fair, but I think you still need to back up why it's not rewatchable, which you have been doing. I just don't want to say that. I don't want to leave it at you don't think it's rewatchable.
No, I know. That's what I mean is like you see it once, it's just not as exciting the second time.
Because I would counter that 90% of the people out there disagree with that assessment. And so
I know.
So with that in mind, I'm really curious why you don't find it rewatchable. And I don't know. I know that's not always easy. That sometimes it's just
No. I think what it is it's like the excitement levels in this, the entertainment stuff is there the first time through, and you're like, oh, when it's a surprise, it's very entertaining.
I get that. Yeah, sure.
But once you know what's going to happen, it's very less entertaining.
So you know why I like rewatching this movie? And it doesn't have anything. I mean, I like the script. I think it's tight. I think it's fun. I like seeing how it all kind of plays out. The excitement. I love Doc Brown. I think his performance is great. But I have a feeling that you're not going to resonate with this because, but I love the casting of the parents, Leah Thompson and Crispin Glover. I just adore their performances. Now, that being said, I am not a Crispin Glover fan. Some of his stuff he did, his persona on David Letterman and some of the stuff that he went on to do kind of really annoyed me. But this performance, I just think is so creative and eccentric, and it was the first time I had ever seen him. So screw the fact that he brought that same performance to all his future roles. I don't care. This is what I'm basing this on. Whoa. It's just his performance. And Leah Thompson as well. She
is great.
Plays that role. Yeah, I didn't think you'd be a big Crispin Glover fan, which I get. I'm not a big Crispin Glover fan either outside of this movie. But this movie, I think his performance is epic, and it brings something that I'm always charmed by. Just that it's weird. It's weird. And
it is very weird.
And I'm really drawn to that. It doesn't piss me off. It kind of it makes me smile when he says, Darth Vader come down and tried to melt my brain, and he's just so passionate about
so
his delivery. I know his delivery kind of confused the director even.
Well, he comes off very much what people would call a nerd, and very
lanky, and
he kills at everything in that. And it's great for what he does. His laugh is iconic.
Especially, that first time you see him laugh at the TV when he's older. You know, he's
Yeah.
He doesn't even make noise. He just kind of stares. And goes, you know, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
What I didn't care for in his
Eccentricities, you know.
yeah, you know, I guess it's not even him. It's just the whole what happens after Marty comes back. I have a big problem with the time
After
the
finale
after
scene.
the chain. Yeah,
You know, he
The
didn't.
whole-
he
the
wa-
whole-
he is in total agreement with you.
well, it's like, yeah, I agree that it's just one of those. There's some things that just change that don't make sense to me.
He
but
fought
I
the
think-
director. He did not like
Yeah.
the fact that it was all
Well-
about kind of this big success as the kind of this to the victor come the successful spoils in the end.
Well,
you know,
and I agree with him. I agree with the director a little bit in this. Like
I think it fit the style of the movie, so I don't have a problem
yes,
with it.
yeah,
But
I do that. But what I guess I have a bigger problem with Biff.
being so like mousy.
Yes.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
To me,
I agree.
okay,
I get you.
this is something that came up in that one I was listening about the bullies. And the question they asked the other hosts on this was, have you ever been bullied, or have you ever been a bully? And I was like, I started thinking about that for myself, and I was like, I can answer yes on both of those. And when you look at, I mean, Tom Wilson as Biff Tanner is one of the best characters also in this. Like he does the bully thing in the 1955s so incredibly, which also brings up
I think he does better
about,
in 1955 than he does in 1985 in both characters. His future.
yes, well, and part of that is too is like in 1985 as adults, no one's gonna fucking put up with that bullshit. Like, I mean, maybe I'm just talking out my ass that like someone tried to come to me like that, I'd be like, dude, we're fucking rolling.
I think I did see a meme though that showed a side by side comparison of 55-year-old the actor compared to Biff Tanner, 55-year-old from Back to the Future, and there was it was pretty. I mean, alike. You know, the common look was pretty.
What I
extreme.
meant was
But
those like
you're talking
as
performance, yeah.
As an adult, you're at a job, and a dude's gonna tell you, "Do my work." Now, I'm not saying that people don't steal people's work at work, like steal their
Yes.
shit at work, but you don't come up to them and bully at work. Like
No.
as an adult, I'd be like,
I
"What
agree.
the fuck are we talking about?"
But you got to admit this movie is supposed to come across as a little campy, you know. So
for sure.
So I think we got to give it a little bit of leniency there. But I do agree that I think with his character in particular, they went to some extremes that were a little unrealistic. And I am not a fan of part 2 and part 3. I mean, I've watched them. And
I've seen him maybe once.
I think I've seen him once too.
I don't even think I've seen 3. I don't even know if I've seen 3.
I think I think I liked 3 more than 2. To me, 2, you talk about the murder board with all the lines and everything like that. To me, 2 just went off the rails, and it's like this is just no fun anymore. It's just too ridiculous. But 2, I thought, or 3, I think, kind of brought that back to a little bit more of a simple story. But again, it was so much repetition, just all these homages to Back to the Future that.
Yeah.
And also they didn't bring back Crispin Glover, which really annoyed me.
Well, he apparently, yeah. So I was going to say, you talked about him challenging him at the end. I didn't know about that, but so he was not brought back for the second one. And apparently they brought in a stand-in to kind of play his character in some scenes, which created a lawsuit that apparently Crispin Glover won. As to use his likeness, which I was almost at the point I was like, but they didn't say it was you. You were playing a character that you really don't. I was like,
yeah,
ooh,
it had to do with his mannerisms that he brought to it, and I think they've addressed. Recently, you know, they had the whole actors strike a few years back, and that was to address.
They do that every couple of years.
Yeah, but that was to address how AI can do the same sort of thing. It's like if you capture someone's likeness in AI and AI can understand someone's mannerisms, they can generate a likeness of you and a performance and put it on the screen. And this was a way to try to protect the actor from that abuse. Because I agree, I think that can be abuse, especially as AI and technology becomes so much more advanced to where they could put someone on the screen. There's some what's the Black Mirror series that explores this idea of taking a person and putting them in a series, and it's not the person, it's their computer generated likeness, but technology is so advanced it doesn't matter anymore. Is it fair that the actors don't receive any royalties from that?
I get it.
And I think that had to do with it. It's like if they're trying to mimic the performance, then it's fair for the actor to get some royalties with that in mind. So I think it was I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it doesn't piss me off. To me, it seems like a reasonable.
To me, it's I'm not going to go into the depths of it because I don't know all of it. To me, I was kind of like, they gave you a script and you played a character. So you threw out a character off of what they wrote. So they could be like, oh, well, you were doing your own thing on that. So
but if it's not in the contract, and I'm sure future contracts kind of tied some of that language into it.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
So that they could screw people over in the future. But I've seen some interviews with him more recently, which I find much more interesting than some of those interviews right after Back to the Future when he was like on crack or something. He was all whacked out of his mind, and that could have been just his gimmick, but it was tiresome. But he's a little bit more stable now and interesting, and he's very articulate talking about what that was about. And he doesn't like it. It was. I think he kind of felt screwed over, and it was, if you just don't say anything, if you don't say anything and you walk away from it, then
I don't remember hearing why they didn't bring him back, what it was, whether he couldn't do it.
It was probably money. It probably.
I thought it had something to do with he was filming something else and timing, but who knows?
It could. Sometimes those things just come down to someone saying, "Hey, I would have been supportive. I really wanted him back. I loved him that much in this movie." His performance.
He did a good enough job that he was entertaining.
And when I saw what they had this guy hanging upside down, so you didn't get a real good sense of his likeness in Back to the Future 2. It just pissed me off, And I'm 17, so it's like I'm pretty innocent to be pissed off. So give me credit that I was pissed off validly.
Nice. Steve came in with some fucking attitude. Now, I have to say, though, that even as much as George McFly was a great character, Leah Thompson as Lorraine, you want to talk about, like, crushes as a teenage boy.
Right.
Like, you're like, let me get hit by her dad. Come on.
And not only that, you're dealing with kind of this Oedipus complex, because you're dealing with a father, a daughter, or I'm sorry, a son-mother relationship. Oh my God. And it was so interesting how they navigated that in this, because I think they were terrified of crossing some sort of line that would piss off audiences. That
best thing I ever heard about that was they were like, oh, we had Star Wars, we had a brother and a sister kiss. It was Spielberg or whatever. They're like, oh wait, Robert Zemeckis is like, fuck, hold my beer. Wait a second. Beer.
Perfect. Exactly.
I was like, oh my God, that is the best fucking thing ever.
Leah Thompson is very attractive, and she was our age, when we saw that movie. So it was like valid that we were attracted, and yet we're seeing it through the eyes of Marty McFly, who is, legitimately her son. And so it brings that conflict to the audience in such a weird way. So that almost enhances the whole like bad juju vibe of, here's a nasty relationship that I'm really into.
But here's the thing is what the kids today would call her. She was thirsty. Right. She was all about, like,
God, right off the bat when he woke up, and you could just,
his pants were off
in her eyes. It was just that's how good of a performance that was, how it just oozed out of her. And she's she plays it so innocent, and yet you can just see her drooling, even though she's got perfect makeup and everything. Yeah.
So
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Some of the funny things I heard about this was someone had told Leah Thompson when she was first getting into acting that, you know, that you, as women, you get to play the marm, the mother, and the prostitute or something like that. And she's like, I got to do all three of these in this movie. And it was like, oh my God, I might have got the. Is there something like that? And I was like, oh, that's so fucking funny. But she just kills it in this, and it's like,
she pulled off some key moments really well. I mean, the kiss in the end when she says, it's like I'm kissing my brother.
Right.
You know, you can see it in her expression, and it works. And I think that was a critical moment where the audience has to kind of feel, you know, because we're dealing with something that is really taboo, and yet this is a family movie, and she brings something to it that makes that all work in a way that we can laugh, and we can say, okay, we didn't cross the line, we're still safe, and yet still have a crush on her at the same time.
Well, I mean, the way she comes off she's all about, you know, one of the lines I heard, and I didn't even catch it, when he first wakes up, and she's like, where's my pants? It's over on my hope chest. And someone brought it up, and I was like, oh shit, that's funny, because, you know, hope chests were back in, that's the time, you know, you put everything you wish for in your hope chest, and it was like, she was just like all about it, you know.
I didn't think about that.
Exactly, that's what I mean, is like, but she was, you know, the line earlier when his mom was like, oh, you must have been raised by, you know, nuns and stuff like that, and it's, everything is just so off compared to what it was. Oh, here we go, I found it. A very famous agent assessed her options that she told me, here's your career, Leah. Virgins, whores, or mothers. And Thompson recalled, I laughed when I realized that why Back to the Future is such a great part, because I got to play the virgin, the whore, and the mother all in one movie. And I was like, oh, that's so fucking hilarious.
That is great.
Which brings up another thing, like, and this goes back to the Biff and Kristen Glover is George, and the scene at the car, which, like, this is one of those funny things where
the
I'm
scene
listening
when she says it's like kissing my brother. Is that what you mean?
No, the at the dance,
right?
And I guess it is that, but it's later on after they already pull Marty away from the car,
right. And Biff's going
Biff
at
is
her.
there. Yeah. They're like, how is this like we're talking rape culture? We're talking, I mean, just some.
I mean, even the skateboard scene. I mean, he tries to basically kill him by running him into the manure truck.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, and they were also talking about the basic racism in the soda shop when they're like, and he's like, oh, you'll be mayor, and he goes, oh, not a colored guy. You know, they're like 85 was just fucking wild. Like, they could just put all this shit in movies and nobody blinks an eye.
Although, I mean, I read that Zemeckis wasn't going for a true 50s vibe with this. He was going for a TV 50s vibe. He was trying to base it off of relevant television, not to try to make it realistic for the genre, for the 50s generation, but more realistic for the television generation. So that may be something that you saw in TV. You know, to me, it felt,
I don't know. Yeah.
You know, Mr. Sandman.
It didn't dawn on me when I remember watching this that it didn't. But they were just like, at 85, you could just have this shit in here and nobody fucking blinked an eye. And I was just like, because I do remember that scene, rewatching it recently, like when she's, you know, he just goes into the car and he's like, she's like, I'm not that kind of girl. He's like, you don't think you are, but you know, it's like, holy shit. Like, but I mean, it's an iconic scene because, you know, George McFly gets his, you know, he's kind of picked on and he figures it out. And, like, it's just like, he has his redemption point.
Yeah,
you know,
it's fight or flight, make or break. You know, and he is stuck in the middle of it, and he follows through. And
yeah, and it's great. He punches him. It's the nerd come up, and you know the nerd to warrior, the bully gets his upcomings. Now this is where I also have a problem with this. Like looking at Biff as a bully. I'm looking at this guy. First off, the whole town lets him fucking bully whoever he wants, whenever he wants. He does it right in front of the whole town in the soda shop and chases him with the car. Nobody says fucking squat. But then he gets punched one time and all of a sudden he becomes a fucking kowtow to this dude.
I agree.
Like,
I agree. It was a fair moment to get Lorraine to fall for him, but the whole, I don't know, what did that do to him? Did it like inflate his ego to the point where he became kind of the bully himself? Who knows? But yeah, is Biff going to turn into this little weasel
Biff
mouse?
would not stop. He would turn into
No, I agree with you that
George McFly would have fucking disappeared within a week.
My problems with the big final scene were more with Biff than they were with the kind of the success of that George McFly or that Crispin Glover was upset with the director about. Yeah.
The other two parts that, just like that you talked about the end, first off, Biff being this fucking, he reminded we've just been covering the Harry Potters. He reminded me a lot of the Wormtail character, that fucking weaselly little, like, mousy downed, and
Mr.
I was
McFly,
like, no,
Mr. McFly,
like, nah, motherfucker, you wouldn't have been like
you.
that. But the other part is when they go into the dance and there's the redheaded kid that grabs her and pulls her off to dance, against her will. First off, another just rape culture-y type fucking deal. Like he's just pulling her off.
And that was a deleted scene where I think that guy, that kid, that redheaded kid, locked George McFly in like a phone booth or something. That was something that that was something that was cut towards the end of before release.
Yeah.
So
that makes more sense that it got cut.
There was more to that character, but it was a little.
Well, but he just stands there and then he gets the guts up to kind of pull her back, which is funny because that kid, I remember him from a lot of the other, like, we don't call him Brat Pack, but it's like the 16 Candles.
Was he in 16? Was he the one setting up the tripod?
I think he's been in a lot of he's like always a background character in that.
Although that
whole
kid
genre
had dark hair, he didn't have red hair.
It was I've seen that guy in some other stuff. I literally was like, who is this motherfucker? I've seen him in a ton of shit. I kind of looked for his name in the credits and I couldn't find it.
Kind of looks like the kid in Christmas Story that gets the snowball to the face, right, and has the tears. And is that right? Is that Christmas?
He also
Story?
reminds me. What is the main kid from like the Children of the Corn and one of those kind of he's got that kind of look to him. He's a little bit crazy and a little bit, but I was just. Now, that is an iconic scene, too. This is when Marty McFly is up on the stage playing another – before we get to that, another just thrown out kind of simple racism when Biff's goons have Marty and they go up to the car with the band in it and they come out and he was like, hey, we didn't want anything with a bunch of spooks. And it's like, oh, shit, that's just thrown out there in fucking 85. Like, oh, crap. But anyways, past that, we get up to where he's playing the guitar in the first song.
Do you think that's hang on, back up a little bit. Spooks, but it's
realistic.
You almost want the filmmakers to be comfortable with real conversation. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't.
No, I agree. I
don't want that to be shut down. I remember we did Big Lebowski and there was that whole scene about, and I don't think we talked directly about this, but the Chinaman, and he's like, no, Chinaman, that's not the proper nomenclature, of course. And Asian American, that's what it is. And, but just that it's,
okay,
I think
in 1955, that's exactly what. If they would have done something different, I would have been like, "Hey, come on, be real."
Yeah,
I thought it was legit, and I was like, "No, that's how it should be."
Yeah, when people judge a movie based on the realistic nature of the way people talk, it pisses me off. It's like if there's a point.
Well, that's where we're at in this day and age, where people go. I mean.
Well,
we talked about recently Disney in one of the movies they just won't show anymore.
Yeah, but Quentin Tarantino gets away with it all the time just because he doesn't give a shit. He dropping the N-word all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that it's not completely outcast. I think it's just
No, I think it
in
was done
certain
right.
circles.
I think it was done right. Well, and here's
Yeah,
why
I
I
do
think
too.
it was done right. Not only did they use the correct nomenclature that they would have at the time, they dealt with it exactly how it was. The guys in the car, they're like, "What? Like we're not gonna," it became potential confrontation. It's like, hey, it was done exactly how you would expect it. Anyways, I wanted to get it to the point where Marty plays the guitar, and
Yes.
this is one of the coolest scenes to me, that the timey-wiminess of this, and the future like what happens when you go back in time and you fuck with it.
The repercussions, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The pictures of his brother disappearing, his sister disappearing, and he's playing the guitar, and all of a sudden he's having trouble.
Yeah.
And he looks at the picture and he's starting to disappear. And it's because his parents never hadn't kissed yet.
Yeah.
And he's going, and all of a sudden they kiss, and he does this, like, the best way to describe it is you've seen those blow up doll, like advertisement dolls, where they kind of fold over and then all of a sudden they go whoop, right back up. He does that, and it's it's done with some changing of the speed of cameras and stuff, but it's like he's fading away, and all of a sudden he's whoop right back into it, and Earth Angel, Earth Angel, and it's just like, oh, that was so good, so well done, that it's like everything's back to the way it should be.
Yeah, it's a feel-good moment.
Believe.
That was something that I know because of the accelerated schedule of the special effects, which was just like, I think they gave him like 9 weeks before the movie was released to do the special effects shots, and that was one that they were kind of a little unsatisfied with, was the one where his hand is in front and it fades out.
Weird.
It just, apparently the hand was the wrong size. They had to kind of zoom it in and do some weird things. They just didn't have enough time to get it just right because it had to be released.
Oh, I thought it looked perfect. I thought that was one of my favorite.
Watch it today, and you could totally tell that it's superimposed. It's not. So
it's a 40-year-old movie. What do you want?
No, I have no problem with it. But I think they were saying is that the technology was better than that at the time. But fortunately, they didn't go and do a George Lucas and decide to do the re-release or the re-release and start enhancing all these special effects. This is a legitimate way it was made 40 years ago. So
not only that, but Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale have the rights to this movie, and they have written into it that they will never sign off on a remake.
Oh, nice.
They're literally like, no, you will not remake this movie ever until we're dead. And even after that, this movie is not
rights for
up
50
for
years
remake.
after that.
And I'm like, that is so fucking good.
Apparently this movie was not, it was passed on by a bunch of studios.
Yeah.
And it was 1984's release of Romancing the Stone, which was directed by Robert Zemeckis. Great movie with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner and Danny DeVito. Really fun movie, but it was an unexpected success, which kind of it gave some clout to Robert Zemeckis, and that help kind of greenlight this movie. I'm not sure all the details, but that had a big part of it to make it happen.
We hear that a lot in movies where, like, there, a lot of scripts, sometimes ones that just blow up like this one did, that get, passed over. You gotta wonder, the guy that sat and looked at this at a different studio and go, no, we're not doing that. And then all of a sudden this comes out and fucking makes 100 times its fucking money, and you're like, God damn it, I fucked that one up.
Sure, but there's so many parts of, a script alone isn't going to tell you whether this is a success. Early scripts, it wasn't a car. It was a
refrigerator.
It was some sort of machine and stuff. So
it was a refrigerator.
Is that what it was? Okay. I'm just saying it evolved and it became this after time, a lot of script rewrites. So a lot of those studios shutting them down is what brought them back to the table, back to the script revisions, tightening it up, getting it more clarified. So sometimes that stuff probably helps more than you think.
Sometimes I agree with you.
Ready. But it's not ready. We're not.
It's just one of those. You think about it. You're like, ooh, man, I missed on that one. But the original script had it as a refrigerator and a nuclear explosion for the power, and it's like, oh. God, I'm glad they didn't do that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to go back and look and go, oh, if it was done this way, would it have been as good? Because or even go if Stokes was left in this, would have been good. Sometimes you don't know.
I know. You talk about the nuclear explosion as far as the transition between time, or I don't know exactly how that was to be.
I think it was supposed to be the
something to
what
do with the big
set him
finale.
off the first time or the second time. I don't remember exactly.
In this movie, one of my favorite transitions is when he goes back in time, is because he's being chased by the I don't know,
Iranian terrorists,
which apparently that got the movie in trouble because there was an actual terrorist. Was that this? There was.
I believe that.
Yeah, something happened. I could be mixing up my movies, but anyway, the transition when he goes 88 miles an hour and he suddenly, like, it's like an instant, and he's in the cornfield and he runs into a scarecrow. I absolutely love that. They didn't do anything fancy. They just It was just an immediate cut, and suddenly he's back in time. And
a lot of practical effects.
To me, that was so refreshing. Just to, you already saw the time travel happen in front of you with the fire
Einstein.
and Einstein, and then it appears a minute later exactly, which is totally epic and really ties. You got the license plate doing its spins and flips and out of time, whatever that is. And then when he goes through it and you see it from his point of view, from the traveler's point of view, and it's just instant. Even when I saw this movie when I was 15 years old, I loved that. I just thought, oh my God, screw special effects. We're just traveling. We're going to experience this new world. And I loved that. This wasn't a time travel movie that took you into some futuristic science world. It went back in the past and took you into something that was nostalgic. It was different. It was fresh for that reason.
So I got a couple other questions on this. Like there's a couple other paths I really want to talk about on this. Good. One of them is what do you think made this movie so popular? And one of the things that to me made this popular was the music of the movie. Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News became such an iconic song on the radio. Like it just, I think, elevated this movie in a way that, like, you hear that song, you think of this movie, you kind of almost were like back into watching it. And I just wanted to get your take on that. Like, do you think the popularity of this was because the soundtrack essentially on this was so good?
No, I mean, I think that contributed certainly because that was in the culture. But this movie, its biggest benefit was word of mouth. If you look at the box office, I think it opened number one, but then it slipped, but then it regained and it stayed number one for a long time. People contribute word of mouth to the success of this movie. And to me, when I saw this movie, it was electric. There was something about the pace and the rhythm and the characters that just it felt. And this is where I don't want to say it's a perfect movie, but it felt so complete walking out of it. Like it just satisfied every question I had in such an entertaining way.
Okay.
That I wanted to see it again.
I was just going to ask that. Did you watch this in the theater? Did you go see it twice in the theater?
Oh, I'm sure I saw it more than twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you were a film nerd, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I was.
I mean,
in Raiders of the Lost Ark, I remember was playing it at this. This is 81, so this is 4 years earlier. But it was playing in a theater for a full year. I remember a year after it was released. Mm-hmm. It was still playing in the theater because that's how movies, successful movies, they just hung around because
they just stuck around,
And I think I saw that one, 20 times. Just it was that big of a deal. I didn't do that with this, but I'm sure I saw it a few times because it was just an electric experience. There was something like eating a 5-course meal that is just satisfying. To me, this had an arc that really kind of kept delivering. You know, we talked about the scene with the punch, which is so satisfying, and then that's followed up by the whole, the lightning bolt and that whole scenario, which is also just, they play. It's timed so
there
perfectly.
There are a lot of good iconic
scenes. Everything is almost kind of ridiculous in how exact it all lines up and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter because it just feels so satisfying. And so I think it had a satisfaction that I kept wanting to re-experience. And I think that was enough, that sort of word of mouth, that sort of, I'm sure I shared it with people. Oh my gosh, you got to see this. It's just a iconic feel of the movie. And again, I wasn't a big, huge fan of Michael J. Fox. To me, this was this was just the production, and maybe that had to do with the script. But I did. I think it has some flaws, and I don't think it delivered on the sequels.
I was a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
Or I was going into high school. I wasn't even there yet when this came out. I do remember Huey Lewis in the News, Power of Love, and Back in Time were all over the radio.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And to me, that was one of the things that really stood out to me. Rewatching this, like hearing the songs again, I was like, "Oh shit!" Even Earth Angel, when they were performed by Marvin Berry and the Starlighters, just that song alone, I was like, "Oh shit!" I remember this being on the radio and stuff like that. To me, that's kind of what really solidified this, is like, oh shit, this brings me back in time. This brings me back to 1985 and what I was seeing at the time. I'm pretty sure I might have saw this in the theater. I kind of think I was going to the movies in 85. That was that prime early dating time frame for us kids at that time. Like,
I
hey,
agree.
let's go catch a movie.
And that's a fair thing to say, because I could be blown, I could be convincing myself that the reason I liked this movie was because it was a solid script, but it could have just been that whole Oedipal complex of me wanting to get back to Leah Thompson. And
Well, no, you're right. This does have a tight script for what it was. I'll give it props for that. As much as I don't think this is a rewatchable movie, because I think a lot of the things that you catch, it's so easy to catch them that there's not a lot of little things you miss the first time. Like, there's a lot of movies that are like, oh, I need to see that again because I missed something. This one doesn't have a lot of that to me, but I understand why people like this. It's just not in that rewatchability for me per se. Leah Thompson was great in it, but I was just curious.
As far as Huey Lewis, everyone seeing the movie at the time picked out Huey Lewis in that scene when he's like, you're just too damn loud.
You're too damn loud.
Every time in the reaction videos I watch, people are just clueless. And it's always in the comments that I see, did you know that it was Huey Lewis that said that? And it's like,
well, he doesn't look anything like himself.
Huey Lewis in the News was huge. So everyone watching the movie, that at least in our generation, that younger generation that was exposed to that music.
The fact he was huge on the radio.
Yeah.
Well, you know the voice.
Yeah, no.
You don't necessarily know the visual.
I disagree. MTV, he had a ton of music videos on MTV.
I guarantee my dad would not have been able to pick up Huey Lewis in the News from a video because if I just showed him a picture, he would have known.
I said our generation. I did not say.
Okay, all right.
Our generation that was listening to that music, listening to MTV. And maybe that's just.
I'll give you that.
Did you know it was Huey Lewis when you saw the movie the first time?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Well, I did.
I did not, but I'm also not very good at that. I will say I am very bad at picking up people like that. That could be me too.
I don't think I ever picked up the fact that it was Twin Pines turned into Lone Pines until the internet happened and I started reading that in comments. So there's lots of little details that people pick up on.
And this is what I mean about they did the string theory, right? Where they went in and they the
right.
clock tower, right? So if you look at the clock tower in the early scenes in the first time, there's like a section of the brick that is there. And then when you go back in the future, after Marty goes back in time and Doc goes up and he's up on the top clock tower and he kicks out some bricks. And then you go back to the next, when he comes back, that brick is missing. They did their fucking homework.
Yeah.
they tied everything nice and tight. There is a bow on everything.
They did a good job following their own logic. Because when you're dealing with time travel movies, there's always a logic that gets kind of invented for what movie, or at least that's the hope, is that they're coming up with a structure. We talked about this a lot when we did Infinity Wars and Endgame,
Right.
because they're dealing with time travel and they invent this logic that goes along with their version of time travel, which I think is great as long as they stick to their own rules. And I agree.
They did a great
They really
job.
did a good job in this first movie. I don't have enough experience with the second and third movie to know how much they stuck with that. But I know they totally screwed things up in the second movie. That was a big part of it, is that they even screwed up this new timeline that was developed because Marty went back to the future, in the first movie, because they kind of crisscrossed that, which is kind of cool. But
So that was my other thing. So we're talking about time travel movies. Is this the best time travel movie, or is there a better one out there?
this is a top one, but I think there's different caliber time travel movies. We've talked about time travel movies in the past. I mean, Endgame is a time travel movie.
Endgame's one. Yeah.
There's a kind of a really low budget one that I've talked about in the past that I can't. I mean, I don't know. Well, let me do a quick search of time travel.
Let me ask you this:
movies.
Is this a better movie than Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Yes, Primer is the one I think I've talked about in the past.
Oh God, I think you're so wrong.
No, what? Oh, Bill and Ted.
I think Bill and Ted is a better movie.
No, I don't think it's a better movie, but that's okay.
To me, if I had a choice between watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or Back to the Future, I'm going to go with Bill and Ted.
Oh, okay. I'm not, but that's fine.
I know.
But again,
to me,
that's a little bit more lowbrow humor, and I don't.
What are you trying to say, Steve?
No, don't go there. I'm just, gosh, I'm not trying to judge your. Okay, it's my point is that it's not. It's like I'm looking at this list of time travel movies. Arrival is one that stands out. I love Arrival. If we ever did a most rewatchable movies that we haven't covered in the last 20 years, that would probably be on my list. It's not the same caliber as Back to the Future. It's not the same. Caliber isn't the wrong word. It's not the same style as Back to the Future. Whereas I don't think Back to the Future, even though it's kind of got this comic tinge to it, and it plays into the comedy, it's not the level of comedy as Bill and Ted is. So that might just be my preference in certain genres, So that's all. Lowbrow is it's funny, but it's just. I don't want to say it's not my cup of tea because that sounds
you can't go
so
you
ridiculous.
say that and John Wick is going to come get you. Okay, I just want you to know that.
But see, I love John Wick, so I mean, this isn't. I couldn't watch the latest Bill and Ted that was made. Really straight to Netflix. I started watching it, and I just turned it off. Maybe that's not fair, but I mean, to me, I'm just not as drawn to that style of humor anymore. So I'm just saying it's hard for me to make that call. Primer, Arrival, those are up there for me.
Okay. I get you. I was just curious because I know this was, there's things like Edge of Tomorrow.
Time Bandits. Oh, shit. Time Bandits.
Oh, shit.
I love that movie. That's one that I could probably.
Have you watched that recently, though?
No.
I wonder how well that would hold up.
Yeah, okay. Didn't they make some sort of miniseries out of that recently? I think
they did with
Deja Vu with Denzel Washington. That's an effective one. I liked that. But I would.
What about Star Trek?
Edge of Tomorrow. There you go.
4.
That's a Groundhog Day style.
I loved Edge of Tomorrow.
It's great.
That's actually one of my favorite. What's his name?
Tom Cruise. That's a rewatchable
Tom Cruise.
one. That would probably that could possibly be on my top 5 list of the last 20 years of rewatchability.
Yes.
Rewatchability, I think, it's an interesting genre of movies. 'Cause to me, it's not it's not the slam dunk of what makes a movie great. Because I can watch a movie one time and it's like, oh my God, that was so good. I don't want to see it again. I want it to be a part of who I am. And I want to explore it, but it's not about rewatching it. But there are some types of movies like that one, Edge of Tomorrow, that you just can't get enough of because it's just so fun to continue to reconnect the pieces and have fun with it.
What was the movie we just did that was kind of that arty movie with the Winter Soldier?
The man with the face that was
like I was enjoying that movie. I will never probably go back and watch that again.
Okay, I watched it a couple times.
A different man.
That sounds right. Yeah,
that's that kind of movie where it's like, oh my God, okay, this is a great movie. Everybody should see this. But if I was flipping through the channels and that was on, I would not stop.
To our listeners, listen to that podcast. I went down the rabbit hole on that movie, and I tried my hardest to try to break the code or crack the code, I should say, crack the code of that movie. I couldn't, but I thought I was onto something. I remember I kept I watched that about 3 times trying to put those pieces together as best I could. So that was a movie that I rewatched, not because I was entertained, but because I was just so set on trying to figure out what it was about. Because there was so much symbolism and stuff that they were cross-referencing and stuff. And then I got a hold of the original script and saw how it kind of tied more things together. But I still think that there was some BS going on.
It's one of those things about art house movies. I know I think we talked about
Frequency.
Poor Things.
With Dennis Quaid. I remember that one. Okay.
The movie Poor Things. I loved that movie when I watched it in the theater, and it's one of those like, oh man, I'm going to go watch this again. I'm going to go watch, and I never have. There's something about a rewatchability movie, and and I have to give Marvel, even some of their shitty things have a rewatchability that is just the original Avengers movie, even though it's old in that genre now, and everybody's seen it so many times, it's just like one of those, something about that. It's one of those ones when it comes up, I will watch it again.
And the original, it's the performance that you just want to kind of feel the how it touches. There's what, when a bridge is built, they have to, I don't know enough about mechanical engineering, and Bo, you can help me with this, but there's something about a bridge and its resonant frequency. And if you get something wrong, there's this video that you can find on YouTube of a bridge collapsing because something to do with its resonant frequency. It just started swaying and the whole thing collapsed. But I always liked this idea of resonant frequency, and sometimes a movie can do that to you, where it can resonate a certain way to where it just gets into your soul, whether it's a character or Banshees of Inisherin. We talk about that occasionally, which is like, I don't know what it is about that movie, but something about it resonates in a way that just draws me to it more than once. I want to kind of recapture whatever it is. So I get it. And
you're 100%. That is it. And Back to the Future, I think, has some of that with a lot of people, where it's like they want to capture that moment when they first saw this and get
Crispin
that.
Glover,
And
his performance kind of delivers for me. And I understand where, to me, he as an actor, Crispin Glover, has done some weird shit to where it's like, I don't want to, but that doesn't take away from this performance to me. And he brings some of that frequency that just hits home that I love to rewatch as many times as I see his performance. I'm always just entranced. So.
No, I fully get it, and I understand. And like I said, yes, you're right. Resonant frequency, rewatchability has a big part of this movie, and I think in the 80s, we got a lot of great movies, right? And I think it was at a time where, because you were going to the theater and you were seeing these, we have a different feeling. Like, movies won't resonate the way they used to, because we used to always see them on the grand scale. And now when you can watch so much stuff at home, I don't know if they always get that same feel. So
they're still out there. They're just harder to find. I mean, there's a lot of shit we got to wade through to find.
Shit, right? No. Like I said, I know like I said, people were calling this the a perfect movie and perfect script and all this, and I agree. It is a great script. It's a fun movie. Doesn't have a rewatchability to me. I don't. This to me is, this wouldn't break my top 20 movies. This wouldn't break. It might be in my top 50 if I've ever got a list that deep. But
considering we're on what 290 as far as our podcast episode,
yeah,
that's not bad, Noah. I mean, so
no.
Your bar is set at a level that is.
Well, and I'm also changing. When we started this, I think I said this in one of our early episodes. Like, we're not professionals. What we're doing is we're giving you the information we got. Steve is a educated film nerd, and I don't mean nerd in a bad way.
It's okay. No, I know what you mean.
You went to school for film. You have that education, so you look at things that way. I am looking at I want boobs and bombs. Like, give me explosions and give me nudity. Give me action.
I use that education to try to defend my feelings, because when I watch a movie, it's not, I don't say, oh my gosh. I mean, I don't, this is where you call me pinky out, is that I'll look at a movie and go, oh my gosh, the sophistication, blah, blah, blah. That's not what draws me to a movie. When I see a movie that I like, it's just feeling. I'm a kid again, eating popcorn and just going, my God, this is great. And then I use that education to try to evaluate it and say, okay, this makes sense. But again, that was, talk about 40 years ago. That's when I went to school and studied this. So
yeah,
my film education is pretty stale.
But in our early podcast, you used to be really into like, the way they filmed this, and the way you were very much into that, and I was very much into like just the bombs and boobs.
Yeah, but I'll continue to defend that. I mean, that's not something that I shy away from. I'm really drawn towards intriguing filmmaking, but only if it creates a feeling that makes me perk up and say, so I'm just trying to evaluate what that's about, and I'll attribute it to these things. But
I think what it is we've grown as humans and as movie watchers and as podcasters.
I'm no longer about the structure and the sophistication.
No,
you're not as much about you've kind of downsized the effect of boobs and bombs. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, I've gotten into art house films, and you've also like seen outside of the theatrical, and we've grown together, and we've brought these discussions in.
True, but we still have the feelings that we bring, that we just can't deny. It's like, I like a movie and you like another movie. That's just the way it is, and our discussions are just kind of trying to, I don't know, defend them in ways that we understand and offer insights into how to reevaluate something, that to bring a different type of recognition to something. But I'm not gonna. I'm under no illusion that I'm going to convince you that this is a perfect movie.
No.
But it's nice to understand that you're just as drawn to Leah Thompson as I am.
What I like about the way we talk about movies and the way we discuss movies, and this is a movie discussion, not a movie review, is that's exactly what we do. Is we talk about what resonates with the movies to us, and why, and it brings, like, you bring up a thought process, and it's like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that, and it brings more to the conversation. It brings more to what I enjoyed, because I get to see what brought you joy and what didn't bring you joy, and it brings questions into mine, and it makes me think harder on what I'm thinking about. And that's why I like the way we do these discussions, because it's, I've listened to some podcasts where they literally start with the beginning of the movie. They talk about the scene, and they go from scene to scene to scene to scene all the way through the movie. And it's like, I've seen the movie. I don't need you to retell me the fucking movie.
Well,
tell me
back,
what you.
We did that. I remember.
We've done that, but that's what I mean. We have. Oh God, I know. I know. No, I know. That's what I'm saying. We've grown as podcasters and movie reviewers, and so. I'm glad people, if you're still listening, thank God, because we do this for ourselves, but it's always nice to know that someone else is listening and someone else gets something out of this. I hope you've tried one of our cocktails, at least one.
Although I sometimes hear that we have listeners, and I go, "Oh my God, that means people are actually listening to what I have to say." I just prefer to have a conversation with you, Noah. Come on.
It is our friendship in a barrel. Like but we're putting it out there to the world. This is fun. This was a good one. I'm glad we brought this up.
Yeah.
You gave us a set of stuff for our next 3 months. A couple months ago, you gave us 3 months of what our throwbacks are. Next month, we're going to hit a Val Kilmer classic first movie, which I'm almost worried about because I've heard some people talk about recently that they were like, "Oh, this doesn't hold up," which is Top Secret.
Oh, okay.
Val Kilmer's first movie, and I was like, "Oh, please don't tell me that because I really want to enjoy this." But we're also going to jump into a Val Kilmer month, and we're gonna hit a lot of stuff. We're gonna hit Top Secret.
Are we doing that in July? Because I know Real Genius actually was a June release. Again, here's where I got my months all fucked.
Oh, jeez.
So
well, then I think we need to hit that one first. Maybe we'll do Real Genius next month, so we get a close to close.
Well, that's again July versus June. June is the following month, so that's where I'm saying.
We just reversed Back Future and Real Genius. We should have done Real Genius today and then Back to Future next week.
I'm sorry. July, August. Oh, now, okay. Let's look up.
Anyways, we're gonna get into some Val Kilmer.
If we're a month
greatness.
Off, screw it. We're close enough.
Yeah, we've been drinking, so we're close enough. We're in the year. But yeah, we're going to get to some Val Kilmer. If you have any Val Kilmer stuff you would like to talk to us about, let us know. Hit us up at our socials. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. And you can email us directly at the.hwsi.podcast@gmail.com and let us know what you think. This was fun. I'm really looking forward to some of this. This will be great. And all I can say after that is, hey, get your damn hands off of her.
What are you looking at, butthead? Hail Caesars.
Hail Caesars.
What does that mean?